What's going on, people? Welcome to another In Motion Football live stream. Today, we got playoff landscaping heading into week 17. There's only 2 more regular season weeks left, so shit is getting serious. We're going to reflect on how we feel about every playoff team's prospects in the playoffs. I switched things up a little bit today, so we'll get into that. But before I get started, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. 6 people watching live so far. Anybody that might be watching this on replay, same goes for you. That's the best way to show your appreciation for the content. The content is free, but I accept payment in the form of engagement. That's what it is, people. That's how channels get bigger. So with that being said, the formalities are out of the way. We're going to get right into it. So, this is what we're working with. I've kind of switched up the categories, or I don't know how to describe this, the axes. But basically, I think I finally, through stumbling through this for a couple weeks now, ended up at what I'm really trying to capture when I talk about the teams. So along one axis, it's how good is the team when they're clicking. So we're talking about best case scenarios here. When the team is rolling and everything is working, how good is this team? I guess you're kind of trying to establish a ceiling here, right? And then the other axis is how often are they clicking? So they're either usually clicking or they click unreliably. And what that kind of tries to demonstrate is how often do you see their ceiling? The purpose of this, pretty simply, is to, I guess, do justice to every single team. Because I think a lot of the times when teams have a lot of hot takes that aren't accurate, it's usually along one of these lines or the other, where a person is acknowledging one thing, but then completely rejecting the other. So I plan to get these 2 concepts in conversation with each other for the purpose of this live stream. And we are going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs. What better place to start? Where are we? Okay, so Kansas City Chiefs. So again, now that I've kind of more narrowly defined what I'm looking to talk about, the thing about the Chiefs is that they have to be high on the how good are they when they're clicking scale. Well, 1,000,000%, right? Obviously, because they're a damn good team, but also specifically, we haven't actually seen them clicking yet. Everybody's talking about how frustrating their performances are, how they're not really playing particularly great. They are literally never clicking. So this is the thing, right? They have to be here on this side of things. You know what? Maybe I'll put them here, not all the way to the left, right? They have to be as a good, like, I'm deciding that they have to be the standard for for being great when they're clicking, because we haven't actually seen them click yet, and they've only lost 1 game. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. They're going to be a standard that nobody else should be able to reach them. And we'll go down from there. But yeah, the Chiefs almost never clicking, and that's why they look frustrating. That's why they don't perform particularly great. That's why their wins aren't convincing, but they just seem to win. So again, the thing about the Chiefs is if they ever were to click, that shit would be unreal. But we almost never see it. So we're going to put them pretty high up on the scale and go down from there. But yeah, they're going to be pretty far to the left on the reliability scale. We're going to look at Buffalo. Now, Buffalo, Ken, if Kansas City is there, right? Where does Buffalo get to be in terms of how good they are when they're clicking? I think they should be within reach, not particularly close, but within reach. And then in terms of how reliable they are, I think they should be pretty, actually it's somewhere here. I think the Bills are pretty reliable. I think their game against the Rams was particularly strange. Like, I think that was a blip defensively. Defensively, the way they gave up points against the Lions, that doesn't particularly bother me much. The Lions are really good, and they got a couple of touchdowns in garbage time. Their performance offensively against the Patriots was a bit of a blip. So there are sometimes things that go wrong, but I think the Bills are pretty damn reliable. But obviously, we just can't put their ceiling to where Kansas City's is because, like I said before, Kansas City almost never touches their ceiling. And somehow, some way, they're still always winning games. So big up, King. Good to see you, my guy. Big day tomorrow. Big day tomorrow. I'm very excited for you. I think I'm more excited for you than you are for yourself. I think you're gonna enjoy that game tomorrow. But yeah, so King, we kind of uh, reworked the chart a little bit today. So I'm talking about one, how good is a team when they're clicking, and two, how often are they clicking? And the idea here is to kind of acknowledge both concepts. So I put the Chiefs far on the left for how often they click because, bro, they're almost never clicking, and up to the top because, bro, they get hella wins despite never clicking. So the Chiefs are going to be the standard for how good a team is when they're clicking because they win so many games without clicking. And then the Bills, they got to be a little bit lower, but they click a lot more often. They hit whatever their best case scenario is at a much higher rate. So that's what we're gonna put Buffalo. Next team we'll look at in the AFC. Where's Baltimore at? Okay, Baltimore is here. So now Baltimore, I think they're like they can't be where the Bills are at. They got to be a little bit lower than the Bills, right? I'd say you're talking about best case scenarios. You know what? Okay, best case scenario with Baltimore, maybe like marginally below Buffalo, right? But they have to be pretty damn unreliable. Like, we probably see their best case scenario more than Kansas City, but we don't really see it much, especially this year. Definitely a team that has their ups and downs. We saw generally a good game against Pittsburgh, but before Russell Wilson started to just do dumb shit, Pittsburgh was very much going toe to toe with them, right? So yeah, I'm gonna give Baltimore again some credit in terms of the fact that they're a pretty good team, and I'm gonna put them in the same ballpark as Buffalo in terms of how good does this team look when they're clicking and the best case scenario is happening. But in terms of how often they hit that best case scenario, I can't put them high on this scale at all. Next team we can put in this conversation is Pittsburgh. Now Pittsburgh, this is tough for me. So I've given them pretty, like when I used to talk about reliability, I used to give them quite a bit of credit, right? So when I'm talking about them being a team that's how often are they clicking? The injuries have made it tough. I still think they kind of belong, like I would say they click at a similar rate to Buffalo. Like I think they belong to this side of the chart. Again, I think the drop off in performance, they're so Pickens reliant in the passing game. It's not even funny. So I guess, okay, I can't put their best case scenario with Baltimore and Buffalo, but I can say that they probably, like, I still think that they hit, when they're healthy, they hit their, they click at a pretty high rate. Like that defense is consistent, right? You don't see drop offs from that defense when things are rolling. Offensively, since Justin Fields was there, again, when they're healthy, they tend to click. So they're going to be on the right side of things as far as them usually clicking. But in terms of ceiling, and how great they are when they're clicking, I think we've seen a new level from some of the other teams here, from your Buffaloes, your Baltimores, your Kansas Cities. So, yeah, I'm putting Pittsburgh here. I think you're going to see things clicking tomorrow. Yo, man said big up RJ Barrett. Whomst the hell is that? But yeah, big up Jem Will. Good to see you. Jem Will, we're talking about the teams in the conversation of how good are they when they're clicking and how often are they clicking. So this is where I'm at right now. Feel free to put any of your thoughts in the chat. Next team to look at in the AFC, Houston. Oh, brother. Where the hell is Houston? Oh, brother. Okay. I want to go ahead and put Houston low as hell. And in terms of how often are they clicking, their reliability is pretty shit. I think they belong here. I'm gonna put them right here. I think they show up. You know what? No, even worse. They show up less than Kansas City. Send them to the Shadow Realm. Yo, yeah, fam. Houston, they show up and they underperform damn near every week. And then obviously the injuries hurt, but even when they're playing their absolute best, they still almost lose games. Like they have very few convincing wins. I don't know where Jared Brown is at. Salute Jared Brown wherever he is, but I understand why he's not here. because his team is putting him through it on a week-to-week basis. But yeah, man, Tank Dell, tough injury to watch. Tough injury to watch. That guy's been through a lot in 12 months. And then Denver and the Chargers. So Denver, okay, let's just get them both here. All right, so Denver fucking lower than Houston, right? And then how often are they clicking? Honestly, that game against Cleveland defensively was bad. Like, you know what? I'll put them in the middle of how often are they clicking. They seem to be a pretty stable team. But they have no chance. They have absolutely no chance. And then the Chargers, the thing is, I think they have, like, I would put them slightly above Houston. And then in terms of how often, like, I think they're fairly I think in terms of reliability, they tend to be who they are. Like again, when I see that his teams fall off is because of injuries and not because of just like self-inflicted inconsistency. I mean, I'll give them credit for the fact that again, they show up and they play as they are, or like as their ability dictates. And then if your ability changes because you just don't have the horses, so be it, right? But like I said, I think the Chargers are a fairly reliable team, especially under Harbaugh. But again, the ceiling just isn't that. So that's where I got the AFC as of now. It's interesting because like there's damn near 4 even quadrants now. Denver is a bit of an outlier. I know they're later, but do you think Tampa's results are justified? Like win big versus us, lose to the Cowboys when it's predicted, mostly lose us. So this is the thing, bro. I think Tampa's clicking rating has to drop down in terms of how often they're clicking because their performances have been very inconsistent. And we're definitely going to get into that. You know what? We're going to pivot to the NFC anyways, and we can start off with Tampa Bay because of General's comments, right? But so Tampa Bay, let me just pull up their last few results. Because the thing you have to keep in mind with Tampa Bay is they got healthy after the bye week. And in being healthy after the bye week, where is it at? Okay. So you beat the Giants. That doesn't really even count, right? You barely beat the Panthers. You beat the Raiders, but it wasn't a blowout, right? So I would say the Raiders is a good result. The Panthers is an okay result. The Chargers is a great result. And then you lose to the Cowboys, which is horrible. Tampa's kind of been all over the place. So I'm kind of going to put Tampa. Here's the thing. We don't even know if Tampa's going to be a playoff team. Who's been more disappointing, Tampa or the Rams? Tampa, I think. Because the Rams are still going to make the playoffs, I think. Tampa, I'm not really even sure about. There's a chance Atlanta could win out. Like, we'll talk about Washington when we get there. But I think Atlanta could win out. So Tampa, I'm gonna put in terms of reliability, bro. They got to be like here, and then in terms of their chances of winning the NFC, like maybe on par with how I feel about the Chargers and the AFC. Like you know what? Maybe better because they have a history of like beating the Eagles, and they beat the Lions this year. And who else? Did they beat somebody else good? I don't know if they played Minnesota or how they fared against Minnesota, but at least the Bucks have a history of beating like some good teams this year and in recent history. But bro, they just have not been showing up. And the thing about the Bucks that makes it hard for them to click is that their defense is probably the worst Todd Bowles defense that they've had. So yeah, I'm not putting them particularly high in terms of how often they click. And then if you want to add Atlanta to this conversation, because I guess we kind of have to at this point. Atlanta, I'm putting bottom of the barrel. And then in terms, like, actually, Atlanta has to be in the bottom left. Oh, apparently the NFL power ranking has a new number 1 now. I haven't read it. I mean, yeah, because I think Philadelphia got some number 1 spots after beating Pittsburgh, but I think that's probably gone away now. Yeah, Atlanta, I'm putting to the bottom left because they have never clicked under Kirk. They still didn't look particularly great against the Giants. Also, beating the Giants doesn't really even count. And in terms of their potential when they do get rolling, you know what? Okay, no, maybe. No, you know what? It's still bottom of the barrel. It's still bottom of the barrel. I bet it's Buffalo. Yeah, I would say that makes sense. That checks out. So yeah, Atlanta, we're putting bottom of the barrel. And then we can work work our way through the NFC West then. Rams. Okay, Rams. I feel like I want to put the Rams like on par with Tampa in terms of upset potential, like in terms of how good they are when they're clicking, and maybe a little bit better. But my thing about the Rams is, um, bro, the game against the Dolphins does not make sense to me. Their offensive struggles against the Niners and the Jets do not make sense to me. I actually, you know what? The Rams maybe could be closer to Tampa. The Rams and Tampa, they got some similar shit going on. I don't know what to expect from the Rams. I don't know how, again, the game against Miami, offensive struggles against Miami, offensive struggles against San Fran, offensive struggles against the Jets. How does that team go ahead and put 40 on the Bills? I don't know. So again, you're talking about a team that doesn't really click that often. But again, when they do click, they beat the Bills. They've lost to the Lions. They've lost to the Eagles. I don't know if they've played the Vikings, but yeah, I'll put the Rams kind of in the same ballpark as Tampa Bay. And then we can talk about Washington before we talk about the Big Four, I suppose. Okay, so Washington. My thing about Washington is, guys, like, I mean, I don't look at them beating the Eagles with Kenny Pickett and think all of a sudden like, oh, guess what? I think this team could maybe catch somebody. I still think they're the team that went toe-to-toe with the Saints, and I think they showed up against the Eagles. The Eagles' starting quarterback got knocked out, and then on top of that, the Eagles did a bunch of dumb shit. Like, the funny thing about the Eagles is they beat themselves a lot, and the Eagles, I think, showed up to Washington and just beat themselves. Like, I don't particularly leave that game thinking anything great about Washington other than Jaden Daniels. I actually think Washington's, like, they're bang in the middle with how often they click. I'll put them on par with the Chargers, definitely less than the Rams and the Bucks. I'll put them on par with the Chargers in terms of like their, I guess, how good they are when things are clicking in relative to their conference. But yeah, man, the Commanders go up and down. Obviously, they had a lot of ups to start the year. They've had a lot of downs recently. Then people look at this as a big up. I would say it was a big day for Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels showed some great things. But as far as the team goes, bro, no. I don't particularly look at the the Commanders as like a team with crazy upset potential. So I'm putting them over there. And then we can talk about the Big Four in the NFC. So you know what? Fuck it. Let's start with Philadelphia. Philadelphia, I want to put like maybe like here. No, we can't put them with Kansas City. Okay. I want to say, okay, on par with Buffalo, maybe like right here. I think, again, the Philadelphia Eagles are so good when they're clicking. They just don't sometimes, right? Like, they showed up to Washington and did a bunch of just self-inflicted nonsense. And when they lost the game against Atlanta, I think that's self-inflicted nonsense. Truthfully, I think the only team that's beat us this year is Tampa Bay. Nobody else has beat us. We just occasionally, twice have beat ourselves. And that's definitely what the Eagles are capable of. And that's what puts them on this side of the chart for how often they click. God damn, bro. Like, it's just words cannot express how frustrating it is when they show up against a team that I know they're much better than, and then they just beat themselves. So do I feel comfortable? Honestly, I want to put them above everybody but Kansas City in terms of how good are they when they're clicking. Because my goodness, can we do so many different things to hurt a team? If only we were a consistent team, bro. If we were a consistent team, man, we would be a problem for every single team in football. Lions and Panthers. Dark Cats are the winners for this week. That's wild. But yeah, I'm putting Philly in this part of the chart. What's left? Oh yeah, the whole AFC, the whole NFC North. Let's do the Lions. So Lions, it's interesting to see, man. Despite all their injuries, they still play at a pretty high level. In the game they lost against Buffalo, they ran into an MVP. They still scored points. I want to say Detroit is one of the team that clicks at the highest rate. I want to put them. I want to put them in this ballpark. Again, I think they click at a higher rate than anybody else here. In terms of how I put them in relation to Buffalo, Baltimore, and Philadelphia, I want to say they're not as good as Philadelphia and Buffalo. I don't know. You know what? They have to be in the same ballpark. Maybe I'll put them a smidge lower because again, the injuries, like the thing is, their injuries to me impacts their best case scenario. So when they're really clicking, I think the injuries have compromised how good they can be. A healthy Detroit team is probably higher than everybody but Kansas City. But Detroit, I got to put a little bit lower than Buffalo and Philadelphia. But again, one of the teams that clicks at a higher rate than anybody else. And then Green Bay and Minnesota make for some interesting conversations, for sure. How do I feel about? Okay, let's start with Minnesota. Minnesota. I've kind of talked about how I look at them in Pittsburgh's best case scenario similarly because I look at Darnold and Russell Wilson similarly. But I'd say they click at a bit of a higher rate. So I'm putting Minnesota right here. Lions definitely do clicking with their pages and add a player to the injury list every week. Yeah, you're not wrong, bro. You're not wrong. They definitely are putting people on injured reserve every single week. But yeah, I'm gonna put Minnesota. Like again, they click at a pretty high rate. I wouldn't say it's on par with Detroit, and I like keeping them on Pittsburgh's level in terms of how good is the team when they're hitting their best case scenario. Again, I drew this parallel I think a couple of weeks ago, but I respect both defenses for sure. I like the supporting casts around the quarterback. I just don't necessarily think the quarterback can take you that far. And then in terms of Green Bay, I think Green Bay is entering a pretty interesting sphere. Like, I think they're on these teams' heels in terms of how often they click. It's starting to become more and more like they're really rolling. And then in terms of best case scenario, how good they play, when Love is going and the running game is going, I think their defense probably doesn't make me feel comfortable putting them in the same tier as Philadelphia, Baltimore, Buffalo, and Detroit. But their quarterback has me feeling a little bit more optimistic, again, best case scenario, than Pittsburgh and Minnesota. So that's why I'm going to put Green Bay basically between, like, below these teams and above these teams. But in terms of how often they click, they're working at getting further and further to the right side. But they're not quite there yet. So I'm putting Green Bay over, yeah, I'd say over here. So that's kind of where I have things standing as of now. You guys can let me know if you think there should be any changes. I switched things up a little bit because the last 2 weeks, honestly, I've just been putting, the way I was talking about the teams, I've been putting them in one corner and then the opposite corner. It hasn't quite ended up in like an even distribution like this. I really like talking about teams in this way because you're actually getting some like an even distribution, and there's like categories of teams. So it's like with Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Green Bay, Buffalo, and Detroit, you got the teams that are like, again, like those are the good, safe teams for the most part, right? And then you look at the other quadrant of Kansas City, Philly, and Baltimore. It's like they're the pretty great teams that you actually kind of don't have a feel for what you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. And then, like, I guess you can take Chargers, Commanders, and Broncos, and you can say these are the low-ceiling, reliable teams. And then, I guess Bucks, Rams are in their own tier of, like, I guess they're in that pocket, but it's a little bit different. And then Texans, Falcons, the teams that's just like, they're in the playoffs, but who cares? So I like what we came up with. Gemma says, Ashley, I have a question. Go crazy, bro. Go crazy. What's your question? But yeah, I like it. There's clusters of teams. And I guess the clusters of teams kind of represent how I feel about them. But yeah, anything above the middle line, Like those are the teams you were actually excited to watch in the playoffs, right? There's 8 teams. Teams in the bottom half, I don't know. In our tight end core, who do we have again? When everyone's healthy, you think Stone Smart is a mainstay? Hold on. This is the Chargers tight end. Who do you have? Hayden Hurst, Stone Smart, and somebody else? Let me see. Chargers, our lads. Chargers, our lads. Will Disley, Hayden Hurst, Stone Smart. Hold on. Mainstayer. Like you're talking about somebody to play for like a few years, because I think Disley is probably the best one, but he's probably gonna. I mean, he's gonna be 29 next year. You could probably have Disley and Stone Smart together. Hayden Hurst is pushing. I think he's over 30, so I don't know. We mainly use tight end as blockers. Hey, Greg Roman shit, man. Tight ends and receivers, you guys better learn how to block. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I wouldn't say I'm a super expert at Chargers tight ends, but I'm looking at Stone Smart. He's apparently 225 pounds. That's pretty light, so he's probably more of a receiving threat. Disley is 265. That's a blocking tight end if there ever was one. Hayden Hurst, 245. But I remember Hurst was undersized coming into the draft. So I think Disley is best suited to block because of his weight. So that's probably a mainstay. And then they clearly like Stone Smart, and he's young, so they can develop him. Just for this season? Damn, bro, you're talking about the last 5 games? I don't know, man. Probably Stone Smart. I feel like he's gotten a lot of run recently. But yeah, big up to everybody in here. 22 people have rolled through. Feel free to get any of your comments and thoughts in the chat. This is kind of where I'm at with the team. I have the teams bundled into 4 quadrants based on how I feel. Yeah, Houston and Atlanta, the 2 teams that could end up in the playoffs that I have no hopes for, really. I saw a tackle that was 412 pounds. Where? College? NFL? Who is this tackle? Oh, it was in college. Yeah, bro, you're gonna start to see more and more of those kind of young prospects, because the sports science is just getting better and better, and they're just getting generally they're getting better at understanding how to develop the human body. And you're gonna see some big boys in the process, man. You're gonna see some big ass little kids. Really, like you're talking about an 18-year-old that's built like a grown man. But yeah, this is what it is, people. Big up to everybody watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I put all the teams out there, so if you guys have any last minute questions, thoughts, comments, I'll stay live for a little bit more, see if anything rolls through. But otherwise, this is always a short stream. Like my hope is always for this stream to just be short, so that it can stay on YouTube's it can. Hopefully the YouTube algorithm can push it, because the algorithm prefers pushing shorter videos. But yeah, I will have a watch along tomorrow, Christmas morning, for Chiefs Steelers, and then another one on Saturday for Broncos Bengals. Oh, we just need Brock Lesnar reincarnation. Don't kill me. So yeah, excited for those 2 watch-alongs. It should be a pretty good time. And then yes, Sunday night football for Falcons Commanders. Man says no worries, man. Merry Christmas to you in a few hours. 100%, bro. Merry Christmas to you, because it's already Christmas for you. I will be saying the same to King pretty shortly. I think I already wished him good luck for tomorrow. Hi, thanks for the analysis. Did you watch the Packers game? Gail, I did not watch the Packers game because I was watching basketball, but I told you that was going to be an ass whooping, and it was. You guys played phenomenal football from what I saw. And yeah, I think you guys are rolling at the right time. You guys are gonna go into the playoffs with some momentum. I think you guys are getting a better and better feel for how to use Josh Jacobs, and talked about how important that is for the Packers. Look, there's a lot of bad teams in the NFL, but the defense recorded the first shutout of the whole NFL season. The Saints were the first team to score 0 points this year. And again, there's a bunch of shitty teams, but even at the Panthers' worst, they were still scoring at least 3 points, right? So, no, but the Packers are rolling. They were 14-point favorites for a reason. Yeah, you said 40 points and they got 34. Close enough. But yeah, no, Packers Vikings next week. I mean, this week on Sunday is about to be sensational stuff. I look forward to that one. Go Pack, go! As I say, with the faint hope that maybe the stars could line up and the Eagles get the 1 seed, even though realistically that's gone. I said, let's see what happens. But did Aints went scoreless earlier this year? No, bro. The Saints were the first scoreless team this whole year. No, bro. Genbo, look it up. No team has got shut out this whole year until the New Orleans Saints. But yeah, no, it was that game went how it was supposed to go. The Saints did not have a chance. Gail, did you hear about what they were doing to prepare for Lambeau Field? The Saints quarterbacks coach had the quarterbacks in the like walk-in freezer that the cafeteria staff has. They had him in the freezer practicing going through plays to prepare for Lambeau Field. That is the kind of intimidation factor you guys have. So that's pretty sensational stuff. Maybe they want to, 51-3. Yeah, 100%. There've been a few teams that have only scored 3 points, but that's the point. Like everybody at least somehow gets on the board at some point, right? But no, the Saints didn't at all, even in garbage time, even when there was nothing to play for. This game was 24-0 for a long time, right? I think it was 21-0 in the middle of the second. This game was a blowout in garbage time for a long time. That's crazy, and it didn't work. They had him in the industrial walk-in freezer to prepare for Lambeau. I've never heard anything like it. And again, the fact that it didn't lead to anything, I think is particularly funny. Like they put the quarterback in the freezer, and then clearly he was frozen on Monday night because no points were scored. So I think I'm glad that it didn't set a precedent, because if it worked, then you'd probably see a bunch of organizations putting their quarterbacks in freezers to prepare for cold weather situations. And that's not what we want to see. So I'm gonna wrap the stream up here. Like I said, these playoff landscaping streams, my hope is always to keep them as short as possible, with the hope that YouTube's algorithm will push it out to people who aren't interested in watching 3-hour live streams to familiarize themselves with me for the first time. So that's what it is. We're gonna wrap it up here. Shout out to everybody tapped in. 11 people watching live. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you joined halfway through or even right now, feel free to go back and watch from the beginning. We'll be back tomorrow for Steelers Chiefs, watch along for the whole game, and then back on Saturday for Broncos Bengals. So make sure you guys tune in for those streams. Subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss when I go live. And I'll see you guys then. I'm out.